The Pact of Darkness. In the heart of the city, where shadows whispered secrets and the neon glow of streetlights danced upon rain-slick streets, two figures emerged from the darkness. They were like phantoms, their movements fluid and silent as they prowled the night, their eyes gleaming with a hunger that could not be sated. One was known only as the Night Stalker, a phantom who slipped through the cracks of society like a wraith, leaving behind a trail of mutilated bodies in his wake. The other was the Butcher of Blackwood, a cold-blooded killer who stalked his prey with surgical precision, his methods as precise as they were brutal. For years, they had operated alone, each carving out their own bloody legacy in the annals of crime. But now, drawn together by a shared desire for chaos and destruction, they found themselves standing face to face in the dimly lit alleyway, their eyes locking in silent recognition. "You're the Night Stalker," said the Butcher, his voice low and gravelly. "And you're the Butcher of Blackwood," replied the Night Stalker, his voice a whisper of darkness on the wind. There was a moment of tense silence between them, as if the very air around them crackled with the energy of their shared madness. And then, without a word, they began to circle each other like predators sizing up their prey, each waiting for the other to make the first move. But instead of lunging for each other's throats, they found themselves drawn together by a strange and twisted bond. It was as if they were two halves of the same whole, each complementing the other in ways that neither could fully understand. "I have an idea," said the Night Stalker, his voice barely more than a whisper. "A partnership, if you will." The Butcher regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "What kind of partnership?" "A partnership of blood," replied the Night Stalker, his eyes gleaming with an unholy light. "Together, we could wreak havoc upon this city like never before. Imagine the fear we could instill, the chaos we could unleash." The Butcher considered his words for a moment, weighing the pros and cons of such an alliance. And then, with a slow nod of his head, he extended his hand in agreement. "Very well," he said, his voice as cold as the steel blade he wielded with such deadly precision. "Let us join forces and become legends in our own right." And so, the pact was sealed in blood, two serial killers united by a shared thirst for carnage and destruction. Together, they prowled the streets like wolves on the hunt, leaving behind a trail of mutilated corpses as they carved a path of terror through the heart of the city. But as their reign of terror grew ever more brazen, so too did the determination of those who sought to stop them. The police launched a massive manhunt, their efforts fueled by the fear and outrage of a city pushed to the brink of madness. For months, the Night Stalker and the Butcher of Blackwood eluded capture, slipping through the fingers of their pursuers like shadows in the night. But even as they reveled in their newfound infamy, a sense of unease began to creep into their twisted minds. They had become too powerful, too reckless in their pursuit of chaos. And now, as the net closed in around them, they realized too late the true cost of their unholy alliance. In the end, they were caught not by the police, but by the very darkness they had unleashed upon the world. For in their mad quest for power, they had become victims of their own creation, consumed by the very evil they had sought to harness. And as they were led away in chains, their faces twisted in expressions of madness and despair, the people of the city breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the reign of terror unleashed by the Night Stalker and the Butcher of Blackwood had finally come to an end. But the darkness they had invoked had other plans. As they sat in their cold, damp cells awaiting trial, a sinister presence began to make itself known. Strange whispers echoed through the corridors of the prison, and shadows seemed to dance along the walls, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. At first, the Night Stalker and the Butcher dismissed these occurrences as mere tricks of the mind, the result of their prolonged isolation and the weight of their crimes bearing down upon them. But as the days turned into weeks, they could no longer deny the malevolent force that had taken hold of their surroundings. It started with the nightmares. Horrific visions plagued their sleep, each more terrifying than the last. They saw themselves surrounded by the mutilated bodies of their victims, their screams echoing in their ears as they were dragged down into the depths of hell itself. But it was not just in their dreams that the darkness made itself known. Strange occurrences began to happen with increasing frequency. Objects would move of their own accord, doors would slam shut with a force that seemed to defy explanation, and the air grew thick with an oppressive sense of dread. The other inmates whispered tales of a curse that had befallen the prison, of restless spirits seeking revenge upon those who had wronged them in life. But the Night Stalker and the Butcher scoffed at such superstitions, convinced that they were beyond the reach of such supernatural forces. Yet try as they might to rationalize away the inexplicable events unfolding around them, they could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. It was as if the very walls of their cells had eyes, and that something malevolent lurked in the shadows, waiting to claim their souls for eternity. And then, one fateful night, the darkness finally revealed itself in all its horrifying glory. The Night Stalker awoke to find himself alone in his cell, the air thick with an unnatural chill. As he peered into the darkness, he saw something move, a shapeless mass of shadows writhing and twisting like a living thing. With a cry of terror, he stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his chest as the shadows closed in around him. And then, with a deafening roar, the darkness engulfed him, swallowing him whole as if he had never existed. In the cell next door, the Butcher of Blackwood awoke to the sound of screams echoing through the corridors. With a sense of mounting dread, he peered through the bars of his cell, his blood running cold as he saw the Night Stalker being dragged away by an unseen force. Frantic with fear, he called out for help, but his cries went unanswered. And then, just as he began to resign himself to his fate, he felt something cold and clammy wrap itself around his ankle, dragging him toward the darkness with a strength that defied logic. With one final scream of terror, the Butcher vanished into the shadows, his fate sealed by the very darkness he had once worshipped as a god. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the prison stood silent and empty, its halls haunted by the ghosts of those who had dared to defy the darkness. And in the heart of the city, where shadows whispered secrets and the neon glow of streetlights danced upon rain-slick streets, the legend of the Night Stalker and the Butcher of Blackwood lived on, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurked in the depths of the human soul.